Hey guys, how's it going? Today I thought it'd be fun to do some loop pedal stuff. So I'm just going to play a little loop thing that's not the main part of the thing, but let's just have fun with this, and then we'll get into Don't Worry, Be Happy. All right. So this is an example of a loop. I can turn the volume up and down on it with the pedal. I'm using the HX Stomp right now. It has a built-in looper. Before I was using the in previous videos, I used the Boss RC1, but I think it's broken since then. So this pedal doesn't seem to work anymore, but it did me well for a long time. So now I'm using the HX Stomp, which it's made by Line 6. It's kind of hard for me to show it to you, but it's on the ground right here. Just trust me on that. And it works almost exactly the same as that looper, right? So let's talk through that real quick. So first, you click the button to start the loop. You usually want to click the button on beat 1 and then hit it again on a different beat 1, like a different time around. So an example would be like, I'll play a note on beat 1 so you get an idea. I'll hit it right on beat 1, and then the next measure I'll hit on beat 1 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear that it repeats exactly from where I clicked to start it to where I clicked to stop it. So I think a lot of people, when they get a loop pedal, let's stop that for a second. A lot of people, when they get a loop pedal, they think I start on beat 1 and I stop whenever I'm done playing. But you really have to get it all the way around the measure, right? So if you have something where the second half of the measure is empty, you still have to hold out. You still have to count that out and wait. So make sure that you're starting it on a beat 1 of one measure and clicking it to repeat on a beat 1 of a following measure, depending on how many measures you want. Because if you do it on a different beat, you'll end up with one cut short, if that makes sense. So a lot of times when I'm playing, I like to start with the drum part. And what I do for the drum part is I kind of do a slap sort of thing. And then for the, that's for like the bass drum sound. And then for the snare drum sound, a lot of times I'll be like using my fingernails to get a percussive pop. Sometimes I'll just pop the strings like that. Sometimes I don't want that much attack on the bass drum part, so I might just mute the string over here and pluck through a note. But generally speaking, when I do a loop pedal thing, I have some sort of percussive part that's imitating the drums. Then I have another one that's imitating chords. Like, so in this case, it was something like this. So that was kind of like the guitar part. And then I'll have a bass loop, like I did in that one that was kind of repeating like that. But now let's change the example to Don't Worry, Be Happy. So with that song, I opted for not having a drum track in the background because the loop is longer. So because of the length of the loop, I thought that would be kind of boring. So I started with the chordal part. And that chordal part, he's doing it all vocally. But the chordal part, I started... But that part starts on beat 1, and this particular looper, you have to click it, and after you stop the loop and it starts repeating the first one, I'd have to wait a whole entire time around to be able to start from the beginning again. So instead of starting at the beginning of that pattern, which does this like 4 times, 1, so 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and then it does this. And the last little part sounds like this. I actually opted to start from that part and then start the whole pattern over and stop when I get back around to where that part would normally start. So instead of starting from measure 1 of the normal song, I'm kind of starting from, let's see, how many measures that? Dun, 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 dun. That's third measure. Dun, dun. That's fourth measure. Dun, fifth measure. Dun, dun. Sixth measure. So it's measure 7 and 8 of the song, really. So I'm playing measure 7. And so that's measure 7 and 8. And then I play the whole pattern around from measures 1 to 6. And right when measure 7 would normally start, that's when I'm hitting the loop pedal. And that starts the repeat right where measure 7 and 8 happened. And then that gives me time to click the pedal and extra time to start recording the bass line. So let me try to demonstrate that so you get an idea of what I mean by that. So I'm starting with measure 7 of the pattern. It's an 8 measure pattern. So I'm going to click on beat 1, even though this doesn't happen until beat 2. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Oops, forgot to do the pattern that I was just telling you about. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. I forgot to click the pedal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Beginning of the song. I didn't click on beat 1. So that's the challenge with this song. You got to practice it a little bit. But you have to hit on beat 1 of measure 7, which is where you don't play. So it's probably easier to count. So what I'll probably do is go 1st, 2, 3, 4. But I'll really start with the 7th measure. So I'll go like 7th, 2, 3, 4. But it's too many things to think about. So let me just play it. But that's the 7th measure. And then when you get back around to where the 7th measure would start again, that's where I'm hitting beat 1. So check this out. And you'll see why in a second. 1. That gives me time to click the pedal. So now I've got the whole pattern there on loop. So I didn't start the bass line where I started that first loop, because I started the first loop here. Dun, 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 dun. And basically, you don't have to do that. I'm going to turn the volume down just for a second so you can hear me. But you don't have to do it that way. You could just start from the beginning of the pattern. It's just if you want to start at the beginning of the bass line on the next loop, you have to wait for a full 8 bars. And I opted to do it this way, so I don't have to wait for 2 bars after finishing the first loop. But it is a strange place to start the song. And then looping that bass line. It's already on the loop, but I've got it set to playback mode now. That's the other thing. When you're done recording, let me just turn it down for a second. When you do the first loop, you hit it on beat 1, you stop it on a beat 1, and then it loops everything in the middle of that. Okay. And then you have to turn it from playback mode, which it usually shows a green light, at least on the HX Stomp. It shows a green light for playback mode and a red light if you're recording. So if it's a green light, after you do that, you're just listening to the loop, and whatever you play is not getting recorded. So I have to hit the pedal again so it's in record mode, and the light will turn red. That's how you know. So that's why I give myself that 2 measure leeway by looping it in the weird spot. And then after that, I come in with the bass line. Okay, so because I have it down, whoops, it's a little loud. So I've got it stopped right now, but the loop is still recorded, hopefully. But the bass line is basically the simplest version of what Bobby McFerrin is singing as the bass track on Don't Worry, Be Happy. I took a couple of different pieces of it and took the kind of the main groove and then took the simplest ending that I heard later on in the song and tacked it on to that that loop to come up with that. Because there's sometimes that he goes like, he does that kind of stuff, and it gets a little bit harder to play. But I wanted to make this kind of an accessible loop, since the person that requested this one wanted the bass line. They weren't really trying to have this whole loop pedal version, so I wanted to give them a solid bass line that wasn't too difficult to play, that's reminiscent of what he's singing. So that's kind of how I came up with that for the loop. And he doesn't loop it. So I'm pretty sure Bobby McFerrin went through each track and just sang it all the way through, because the bass line doesn't repeat. He has variations almost each time when he's singing that bass part. The other thing is his version's in the key of B. I moved it to the key of C because a lot of people play it in the key of C, especially in like ukulele groups and things like that. So that was by request too. To be honest, there's one note of the melody that you won't have on a typical U bass. This one has a few more frets, but as you notice here, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right? So I only have 16 frets here, and I'm playing the 17th fret for that first note of the pattern. Well, if you did it in the original key, you'd be able to do it with the 16th fret instead. Sorry, it's right here. Instead of having to use the 17th fret or above. So all that stuff, right? So just know that if you go to the other video that I did of this that has the bass line on it and has all the stuff notated out, then you may have to like do something for that first note. What I recommend is if you have one of those U basses, you can do a false harmonic. If you know how to do these, you push down on a fret over here, and then you go the equivalent to 12 frets above it. So if you don't have a fret there, you could still tell it would be about that far past the fret that you do have. So just a little centimeter away or something. And then you can put your thumb lightly over that place because there'll be a harmonic there now, as long as you're holding this down. And then I'm using one of my other fingers to pluck while my thumb is just sitting in that spot on the string. It's a little bit challenging, and you have to be really delicate with your thumb just sitting there lightly to get that note to come out. But that's what you could do to get the first note of that pattern if you don't have that many frets. Okay, now I digress. Back to the loop pedal stuff. So the pattern started here, which is weird. Now you'll hear if I hit the play button, it should play it back where the bass line's not starting from the beginning, but it's starting from the last two measures, because that's where I started the overall loop, but I waited around to do the bass line. So check this out. This is the top. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And so once this loop is recorded, I'll hit the loop pedal and turn it back into playback mode, right? And then that's when I immediately jump up to play the melody. Dun, 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 dun. So I hit playback mode, and then I play the melody. So that's kind of what's going on there. And once it's in playback mode, I don't really have to do anything else with the loop pedal, but just leave it going. Because in this particular song, the verses and the chorus are the same part. So as far as that groove goes, so you can be playing that melody, that whole thing over that, or you can be playing the melody. Let me wait for it to go back. Played a little bit wrong, but you get the idea. And if you listen to my original version, you might notice that I had like the second verse in my head when I started playing that, so I didn't play the exact rhythm. So I'm going to kind of correct that now, but you can kind of hear this. Here's the beginning of it again. Here's a little song I wrote. So, here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry. Be happy. So you can play the melody at that point. But like I said, once you've done all that other stuff, the loop is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the loop and start it all from scratch. And I'm going to try to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but it's kind of hard to do. So once again, I'm going to count to 4. Sometimes I like to kind of get into the groove before I hit the loop pedal so that I don't have to kind of like change the tempo during the loop. So I kind of think about the tempo. I want to go boom, da, da, boom, da, da, boom, da, da, boom. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So that kind of tempo. And then I'll click it on beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you get the idea. I've got to redo that though, because I'm doing the last 2 measures of the pattern, not the first 2. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, click. This is the top of the actual pattern. Two, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Click it again to record. Bass line. Click it to playback mode so I can go. So now I'm in playback mode for the rest of the song. And then the verse. That makes sense? Okay, so let's stop the loop pedal. I'll delete that again. So now I'm going to try to imitate what would happen and what I'm actually playing without the looper going. So I'm going to say stomp for when I'm stomping it, but I want you to see and hear which part I'm actually playing versus what the loop pedal is doing. So that's what it sounded like with the loop pedal. This time I'm just going to imitate what happens as I'm doing this. So you're going to hear some parts where it's just silence because I'm not having to play anything because I clicked the looper. So 1, 2, 3, 4, stomp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, stomp. Now I don't have to play. Dun, 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 dun. Click again so I get the bass line. Stomp again right there. And that stomp was to get into playback mode. Dun, 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 dun. The cool thing about this song is even though that's the chorus melody, when it dun, 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 verse. Right? So that's what I'm playing, and I'm letting the loop pedal do the rest. So stomping on beat 1, and then I'm playing the 8 measure pattern, but I started on measure 7, so I end at the beginning of measure 7 when it comes back around. That extra measure 7 and 8 are just playing on the loop pedal at that point. Once I've looped to that point, that gives me 2 measures to click the button again to change it from playback mode, which is what it automatically goes to when you end a loop on this particular setting. And then that gives me a chance to click it again to put it in record mode and not have to click too fast. Because sometimes with these loopers, double clicking stops the whole thing. So you don't want to have to put yourself in a situation where you have to do 2 clicks really fast, like playback, record, in the loop and then hit it again to record. So I gave myself that 2 measures. And the reason I did that was I was thinking in a performance setting, that's a lot better than the alternative of letting the whole entire groove play an extra 8 measures where it's just those chords. Like, ooh, that would be pretty empty. So like, here's the alternative. I could start from the beginning of the pattern, what I consider the actual beginning of the song, right? Just doing the chordal part, but listen to how long you have to wait before the bass line can come in if you do that. So let's try that real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Two, three, four, 2, 2, 3, 4. Third measure. Okay. So I can hit record whenever. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hear how long that wait was? You stop it for the melody. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But from a performance standpoint, the audience has to sit there and listen to those chords loop while you appear to be doing nothing for 8 measures. Because you are kind of doing nothing for 8 measures. You're waiting, right? So you're counting, but you're not playing for those 8 measures. So I figured if I start... Bless you. It's my wife in the other room. But if you start with the last 2 measures, then it just cuts down on that wait time for the audience. So that's the only reason that I cut that down. And then everything else would be the same, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Now we could talk about the individual parts if you want to. The chordal part that I started with is 2 notes. It's an E and a G note. I'm choosing to play those as the 14th fret on the D string and the 12th fret on the G string. So do you see that? 12th fret G string, 14th fret D string at the same time. I'm plucking those with these 2 fingers. So that's the real start of the song, but the way that I did it on the recording, I do that one 2 times. 1, and then I move up to the 15th fret on the D string and the 14th fret on the G string. So you can do you can either use these 2 fingers and just have them get closer together, or you can use your index and your ring finger and then switch to middle and ring when you scoot up, whichever is more comfortable for you. And then that's the real start of the song right there. So the first 2 measures are really like just that ending part. So this might measure 7 to 8 back to the first measure. Those are the same 2 chords. You stay on this one, then you're back to that part, and that's where we have to click the loop pedal. So it does that part for you at that point. So there were only 2 different chords there. If y'all didn't follow what I explained before with the 14th fret on the D string and the 12th fret on the G string, we'll call that chord number 1. And then we'll call the 15th fret on the D string and the 14th fret on the G string. That set of notes we'll call chord number 2. So check this out. Chord number 1. Sorry, from the beginning of what we play. Chord number 1, chord number 2, chord number 1, chord number 2, chord number 1, chord number 2. Stay on chord number 2. Now go back to chord 1, and that's where you hit the loop pedals before that last chord number 1 that I just said. You'd really hit the loop pedal on beat 1, and these are happening on beats 2. So you're going 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and so just make sure you hit the loop pedal on beat 1, which is before you even play those chords. So that's the tricky part about the loop pedal, is you really got to be very much in time. Your timing has to be very strong, and you have to hit the pedal on beat 1 regardless of what the song does. So if you don't play until beat 2, the pedal still needs to be recording at beat 1. So it just takes some getting used to. And what I do when I'm playing a show, I'll usually stand up instead of sitting down, so that way I can kind of just get into it a little bit more like that. So if you have any questions about this, by the way, I know it's kind of a new skill if you don't have a loop pedal or if you're not used to this, you can still practice the idea. So if you get a loop pedal, the learning curve will be less steep. But basically, this type of looper, which is very similar to the Boss one, the only difference between this pedal and the Boss one is right when you end the loop, it puts you right into record mode. So on that one, I could have just started the song where it actually starts, and then as soon as I click it, not have to do this weird intro thing. So this is just a workaround for those of you that have a loop pedal, that when you click the button, it puts it into playback mode instead of record mode. But some loop pedals don't do that. And in that case, you wouldn't have to do all this craziness, but it does give you time to like breathe and reset your mind for the next loop. Okay. So that being said, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to try once again. It's hard for me to talk while looping. But I'm going to try to like count, like go 1, 2, 3, 4. But I think at the beginning, I'll say like stomp when we stomp. And I'll say stomp when it goes into, so the first stomp will be to start the loop. The second stomp will be where it repeats the loop. And then the third stomp will put it back into record mode for the bass line. And the fourth stomp will be at the end of the bass line to go into everything that happens on top of the loop pedal. At that point, you are done looping things. You're just playing over the playback. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, stomp. Stomp. Okay, now we put it into record mode. I missed the first note. Stomp. You hear how I made a mistake? The first bass note's missing. So now I have time to fix that. So let me fix that real quick. So what I did to fix it was I put it back into record mode just for that section. Oops, now I have to wait again, and then I'll do the verse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, here we go. Have some trouble. When you worry, you make it up. Don't worry. Be happy. Then back to the melody. Sorry, I don't have that vocal range. But the loop's just going for now. But you notice, even though I missed a couple notes, I was able to go back in and put them back in. But it did cost me, in a performance situation, it cost me empty verse, right, where I had to wait around to do the melody. So that's the idea on Don't Worry, Be Happy. And if you're wondering what the notes are, I know I didn't go over everything there, like the bass line and everything. I did a video version of this. If you go to my channel, you can look for that, and it has the tabs on screen on the second half of it, I believe. I don't think I chopped them up and put them. No, I put it on. I put it on while I was playing it, so you should be able to see that as it's playing on that video. So feel free to pause the video and learn those parts. But that's the idea. Nothing too crazy there, other than that. And let's do some other examples of the loop pedal now, just for fun. So that one, I didn't do any drums. It was kind of a laid back vibe. Nothing too crazy there. But now let's say we want to add a drum part to something. So I like to start with the drum parts typically. So let's take a 2-measure pattern. I don't know what chords we're going to do yet, but let's just take a 2-measure pattern. I'm going to do something like I'm imitating a bass drum and a snare drum. So bass drums will be the slap. Snare drums will be this little strum that I'm doing through the strings. You could also pop if you wanted to. You could pop. So if you're familiar with slapping and popping, you could do that. If you're not familiar with slapping and popping, you could do the bass drum part by plucking with your thumb while muting with the left hand. And then you could do the snare drum either by strumming through the strings while muting, or by popping a string, or if you come up high and mute and just pluck normally, you can get that sound. Let's do it that way because that's easier than slapping and popping if you're not used to doing it. So just plucking downward with your thumb through the string, plucking upward with this finger, and we're muting with multiple fingers on this hand here. Maybe we'll do it right around here so we have enough low notes to make the bass drum sound really like a bass drum, and then make the G string sound like a lower tuned snare. We'll do that. And let's come up with a pattern. That's a very, very basic drum pattern, right? You're hitting a bass drum on beat 1, snare drum on beat 2. So E string beat 1, G string beat 2, and we're just plucking them normally, maybe a little aggressively. So it goes E string, G string, E, E, G, E, G, E, E, G. So we'll do that 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we'll loop that 2 times. So I started on the first bass drum note, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I clicked it again at the end of two of those patterns. So I did, let's just imitate it. I clicked right here, 1, 2. Then I clicked again right there. So on beat 1. So let me count it again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and then I clicked again. 1, 2, right on beat 1. And just getting used to that timing. One thing that kind of helps if you kind of like move to the beat, you'll come down right on beat 1 instead of being early or late on it. So that helps. So there's our drum pattern. Now we got to decide what kind of song are we doing? What kind of bass line do we want? Since it's in playback mode, we can kind of experiment for now, right? So we could go, do I want to do the chords next, or do I want to do the bass line next? We want a chord progression, so why don't we pick chords first? So maybe key is C. We'll do C major. That's going to be a C note and an E note, or you could do an E note and a G note and have the C be in the bass line. That's more like Don't Worry, Be Happy. But why don't we just do a C and an E note for now? And we'll come up with a rhythm. Maybe bum, 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 bum. It's kind of boring, but we're just getting started. Okay, and then we want to have a second chord, right? So we only have 1 measure a piece, so we can only do the pattern once on each chord. So it'll be, and they'll just repeat those 2 over and over again. So I'm going to click it now. It's in record mode, so the button is red, and I'm being careful not to play anything because anything I play right now will end up in that loop. Okay, so now let's play exactly where we want them to be. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that'll loop. See? It looped. I don't like where I did it. So the other thing is, if you hold the button down, it'll undo the loop you just did. So I didn't like that. So let's try again. I held the button down and it got rid of that loop. So let's try again. 1, 2, here we go. That's more in time, so that's good. It's not perfect, but I like it. Okay. So now we want a bass line. I'm going to turn it back into playback mode so we can experiment without it having to come up on there. We could do an arpeggio line like that. So that there I was just doing the root, the third, and the fifth. If you know your major arpeggio, I was doing a C major arpeggio there, and then a D minor arpeggio when I changed chords. So let's do this. I just picked a rhythm that I thought would be kind of nice with that. This is kind of a chill song. Okay, so we could do that. I haven't looped it yet. It's in playback mode. So that's the other thing. Just make sure your loop pedal is either red for record or green for playback. So what if I wanted a different kind of thing? I just want to play a root note bass line. We could just do, the chords are C and D minor. So I can go C, C. So check this out. C, 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 D, 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 D. Let's try that. 2, 3, 4. Sorry, let's try it on the right chord. Or we could lock in with what we made as our bass drum pattern. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and. So I think I still like the arpeggio line better, but those are just some examples of things you could do. And this is an experimental phase. As long as you have it in playback mode, you could try different things out. So you can kind of just mess around with it as long as you're in playback mode. But once you decide on something you like, we'll turn it back in record mode and do it. So let me make sure this is what I like, and then we'll go with that. I think the arpeggio line was nice. Okay. Yeah, I like that. So at any point, I can hit the looper. How about here? Okay, and now that I've played it one time, it's looped. So I don't have to do it anymore. So that's a nice little loop. Sometimes I'll add like a hi-hat afterwards. I'll come up really high on the neck. And I'll just go down and up with like my thumbnail, or you could use a pick if you wanted to. And I'm muting the strings way up high. So I'm touching the strings lightly. Once you feel like you've got the groove, then you can record it. Oops, I didn't go long enough. Okay, now it's looped. It's kind of doubled. But I kind of like that. It gives a little bit of motion to the loop. So far we've made, I believe it's 3 loops, right? We did the initial bass, snare, bass, snare. That was our first loop. Our second loop was this chordal thing, which was 10th fret and 9th fret, 10th fret D string, 9th fret G string, moving to 12th fret D string and 10th fret G string. I forgot to mention that to you guys for those following along that are wanting to play it. So that was the second loop. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, and then our third loop was that bass line, which is just the arpeggio for C major, root third, fifth, and back to the third. Okay, so if you know your arpeggios, the first 3 notes of the arpeggio, and then following it up with the middle note on the way back. Okay, so we've got that, and then the last loop I added, you can use your fingernail. I used a pick there just for the head. It's just coming up here and muting somewhere and adding a little hi-hat, which is just that. Gives it a 16th note pulse. So now at this point, I'm done with this loop. I think it's as full as it needs to be. So I'll start making up melodies over the top of it. So we're on the key of C major. So I'm using the C major pentatonic scale. And I'm doing it up high. Okay. You know what? I kind of want some more notes in there, so I'm going to use the whole C major scale. Oops. I'm not going to do them in order like this. I'm just letting you know those are the set of notes I'm using to make up my melody. So now I'm just going to mess around until I find something I like. Okay, maybe I like this. Dun, 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 dun. Once I find a 2-measure pattern that I like towards the end of just like wrapping this jam up, generally speaking, what I'll do is I'll find something repetitive that's easy to harmonize. So maybe so that might be kind of fun. Let's see. Okay, I didn't hit the loop pedal in time. There it is. I'm gonna go skip over a note in the scale from where I started and do the same thing up higher in the scale. And then I have extra frets here. Once again, on the smaller U basses, you don't have this range. You might make the melody a little lower down. And then in the last note, I didn't move as far up as the other note because I thought it sounded nice here. And if you don't like what you did there, you can always do that undo thing. So let's say I didn't like any of that. Well, I've been recording this whole time for that little melody thing. So let's just get rid of that whole melody. Hit the undo button. Hold it down until it deletes it. So let's come up with a new thing. Maybe I like doing one down lower that y'all could do on the U bass. Let's see. Okay, so now I've got that. So now I'm going to go, I was on an E, so I'm going to skip over F and start on a G and do the pattern using the notes of the scale kind of in the same stepwise fashion. Here it was a half step, 2 notes right next to each other. Here, because it's not a note in the scale, I have to skip over a note. So I like that one. So, okay, I like that. Now that's enough to kind of give me some motivation maybe to solo with more intensity over the top of it. Right? So that adds a little bit more intensity to it. And once I get enough loops where it's like, okay, this is getting ridiculous, that's when I usually decide to fade it out. And I'll just use the volume knob. Right now I'm literally using my toe. Forgive the floor being dirty. I'll show you though. I'm using my toe to just slowly turn the volume knob down. And you can get kind of smooth at it. That wasn't the smoothest. If I had the volume turned up more, I could have gone further and had the fade out be a little bit more gradual. But that's typically what I do in like a live setting. So if you're recording it, you can just go back and highlight a certain amount of it and fade out. But that's what I do to end the songs, because these pedals, in order to stop the loop from going, you have to double click it really fast. And honestly, double clicking it doesn't always work. It's like you have to go da-da. If you do it a little too slow, it just turns the record feature on and then back off again. So it'll continue playing. So a lot of times people will have a bigger loop pedal, or like I'll have a separate pedal. Like when I had the Boss one, I had a separate pedal plugged in. And with the Stomp, you can program it to be that way, but it gets rid of your options to have another effect on there. So here I'm not using another effect, so I could have done it that way, figured out how to set it up. But you could also just buy a loop pedal that has multiple pedals to it, so that one of them you click one time for the stop function instead of having to double click really fast. And that makes it a lot easier. And then you can stop songs and have an abrupt ending and not have to fade every song out. But for me, the safety thing to do is just to fade out the song. So if you have a loop going crazy, stop playing. You can even bend down and turn the volume knob down if you don't think your foot will be smooth enough. But yeah, that's basically how I come up with little loop pedal jams, or if I'm trying to arrange a song for loop pedals, that's essentially what I do. So yeah. Hey, EJ, appreciate you. But yeah, that's basically it. So maybe I'll give you all one more example, but that's kind of it. You can start with the drum part. That kind of helps for me a lot. Or start with a part that's constant. That's why I started with the chord part before, was because that part was constant in the song. So even though it's not the drums, it gave a steady pulse, even though it hid beat 1, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 2, and 4. And it's like I know where beat 1 is because of that. So you could also start with a bass line. So let's just make something up. I don't know what genre. If you want to, in the comments, you can give me a genre that you want this loop to become. Let me know, and I'll make a bass line based around what you say in the comments. So what style of music do you think this loop should be? Whoever kind of comes up with one first, I'll probably go with that, unless it's way too crazy. So anybody? Any takers? What genre should I make the next loop? I'll wait a second. I'll just play something while I'm waiting. Reggae. Okay. So we're doing reggae, so it's kind of the same. Don't Worry Be Happy is kind of already reggae. Let's see. What's a good reggae line? So with reggae, I do kind of like starting with how I did Don't Worry Be Happy, the whole doing the chords first. Let's do like a minor reggae song since we're already doing reggae. Let's try that. Three, 4. So that'll be our loop. So usually reggae, the bass drums on beat 3. 4, 1, 2. So I'll build it slower. So let me hit the record button to get this bass drum part. I'm hitting it right now. Okay, so now it's looped. So now let's figure out sort of what a hi-hat would do. Okay, so that's a loop now. I'm leaving it in record mode, so I'm just hoping for the best with this. So So now we probably want upbeats for the other part. I'm thinking this is a G minor chord, which has a G, a B flat, and a D. So I'm going to choose to play the B flat and the D here. It's not the best. I should have gone for something higher. Maybe a higher B flat and a D down here. But since I'm recording, it'll delete a lot of stuff. Let's just stick with this then. So to me, that's a whole loop. So now I'm just going to put it into playback mode and come up with the melody. So I'm using the G minor scale. It sounds like Get Up, Stand Up a little bit. Oops. No. But I could think like that and come up with a melody that matches that rhythm, or come up with a completely different thing. What about like... So just coming up with something. Or just solo. So what I'm doing there is mostly the minor pentatonic with the occasional blues scale thrown in. So that'd be these notes. I might be playing them in different places on the neck, but it's really just a G, B flat, C, sometimes a C sharp, a D, and then an F and a G. And then I'll do a higher octave of the same notes. And then it's just about messing with the rhythm. And then occasionally I'm adding just notes from the straight up minor scale. That scale. And sometimes I combine them where I do a little bit of the minor scale and then a little bit of the blues scale. Then blues. So you can kind of go back and forth between them since we're staying on one chord the whole time. And that, I'm just doing pull-offs onto the open G string and going up the minor scale. So I'm going like a note in the minor scale, pulling off to open, and then hitting another, plucking another time. So it's like 3, pull off to open, then hit an open string. But just that kind of stuff. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. You can add bends and stuff too. Depending on how easy it is to bend on your instrument. All right. Fade that one out too. So yeah, so that's the idea of what you can do with the loop pedal. It's usually easier to start with the bass part or the drum part, unless like it's something like reggae where the rhythmic part's really constant. So if you're doing a chordal part that's really constant, you can do that. But I hope y'all learned something about how to use the loop pedal or just ideas that you can do with it. You're thinking about each separate instrument. So you want to kind of learn how to imitate drums, learn how to imitate a guitar. Being able to play two notes at the same time helps. It's not necessary. You could play each part at a time and just add an extra loop if you only like playing one note at a time. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, those are kind of the ideas there. What I was doing at the end, as opposed to Don't Worry, Be Happy. Don't Worry, Be Happy is a song, but it kind of follows the same ideas, right? He's staying in the same key. I transposed it to C. The original key was B, but you're basically using notes from the C major pentatonic scale, with one exception where he gets a tiny bit bluesy in the melody, and other than that, it's just all notes from the C major scale, or in his case, it would be the B major scale. And then you're creating a bass part, you're creating a chordal part, which for him was like the upbeats, the cuckoo, cuckoo in the original. Let me turn the volume up so you can hear it a little bit, I guess. That whole part. And then you got your bass line. But there's no real rule about which one you should do first. It's just sometimes putting down like the rhythm track can kind of solidify things. If you have whichever part's easiest to stay in time is probably the best part to do first, because sometimes like when you're playing the bass line, you might not realize that you're being a little bit loose with the timing if it's really sparse. If it's a really constant bass part, then it would be a good thing to start with. Like if it's a driving, then that's kind of easy to have that be the pulse of the song, and you could start with something like that. But that's kind of a tip there. The other thing is, if you have the ability to set the playback volume separate of your recording volume, make the playback volume a little bit quieter so that when you go to solo, the loop isn't covering you up, right? And then same thing, distinguishing the different parts. Sometimes it might be better to mute, like palm mute, and play with your thumb for the bass part, so that when you're playing later, those bass notes aren't ringing out over the melody and kind of competing with your melody. Same with the chordal parts. Since the chordal parts are in the range that you're going to be playing the melody, don't play them too loud. And then that way it won't obscure whatever you're doing melodically. And any way you can differentiate the sounds. A lot of people like using different effects. So if you have effects pedals, you can turn on different effects to make each voice sound different. What I do to make each voice sound different is stuff like muting on the bass, which I didn't do any of today, but sometimes I do that instead of having it be. And then with the chords, I might actually strum them, right? Although this time I didn't. So you can use volume to distinguish the voices. You can use muting to distinguish a voice. You can use different techniques, like playing with a pick will help the melody stick out a little bit more. But yeah, you just kind of think about all those things as you're doing the loops, and eventually it comes out to where you're able to kind of mix in real time, and you don't have to worry so much about messing that part of it up. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions about looping. Just let me know in the comments. For those that are here for this live stream, thanks for being here. For those watching it on the playback, I appreciate you guys. So cheers to you, future people. But Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.